Good morning, everyone. Maybe I better say that again so it gets recorded. Good morning, everyone. This is Esoteric Astrology Adventure number 159, page 677. I must say there have been some fascinating things which we have encountered here along the way. And what I've discovered is that the answers to so many questions have been scattered by the Tibetan throughout his books, and it is in the retrieving of the scattered statements and hints which aspect each other that the capacity for holistic thinking can be developed. The stimulation of the intuition can be developed by the piecing together of many pieces of information which belong naturally with each other. And where there are doubts, well, of course, there will be things that simply belong to the higher initiations, at which he hints. But there are so many things about which we doubt, or let me speak for myself, about which I doubt, which could be clarified if sufficient references were brought together and studied topically. And I've been attempting to do this over the years. And you know, at the Morya Federation, we do have the Ageless Wisdom compilation group, Ageless Wisdom Compilations at Yahoo groups.com. And there, the opportunity for topical study is very great. Well, sometimes as I go along here, I see that I've been puzzling over a certain piece of information, the answer to which has come along later. For instance, we were talking about the particular avatar from Capricorn who began to overshadow our planetary logos in the third chain, in the third round, and other pieces of information talked about individualization on the moon chain taking place in the fifth root race. Fifth root race, of course, of what particular chain and round. So we were able to put a few of those things together for a clearer view. And now we're looking for the destruction of the moon chain, you know. When was that solar-logoic intervention really occurring? And there's a possibility that in some fifth round, which is ruled by the law of cleavage, law of cleavage is under the fifth ray, that may have occurred. The important thing about all this is to learn to think in a certain way, to learn to think associatively, and to recognize, perhaps through memory at first, which items of information belong together and how they shed light upon each other. We can say that the books of DK are written, but the superstructure which could be built upon them has not been erected, because in his mind these pieces of information, of course, have been are consolidated and form one whole. But in our lesser grasp of things, so much has to be related and co-related. And then our picture of wholeness will grow, and the necessity for certain conditions will impress themselves upon us. That may not be the same as intuition, but as that necessity impresses itself upon us, it can summon the intuition for confirmation. So I would say, you know, as we read through this book, and perhaps the others that sections of others that I hope to deal with in this manner, that the flow of illumination will increase, and that there will be intuitive confirmation for the questing mind. It is one way, perhaps, of using the Antakarana. The divine patterns will reveal themselves, as it were, down the Antakarana, and the concrete mind will receive a greater measure of light, just as Venus has shared 1/3 of her light with the Earth, who had only 1/3 of what she had to begin with. That's so interesting, because there again you have to put two references together. One reference where Venus shares 1/3 of her light, and another reference where Mercury receives 7 times the light of Earth and Venus 3 times the light. So you have the mathematics you need to see what this sharing is. One thing we can be certain, that there will be an increasing of the light as real attention is given to the masterful presentation of Master DK. This is, in a way, chewing on the teaching and digesting the teaching, forcing ourselves to dwell in a pondering and often ponderous way on the teaching. Please forgive me for my ponderousness at times. I get excited about a certain subject, and it's too difficult to turn off this program that I'm using to communicate with you. So I take you on my hunt with me, or I take you on the formation of certain abbreviations for auto-correct, thinking that it is really a very good way of saving time in the long run. Well, here we are approaching the end of the book. We have only 18 pages left, and then which one to get into. I've pretty well settled upon the idea that this is how I must do things. It will cover more ground rapidly, and for those who are interested in the links and associations and even visions of possibility presented, they will be able to extract such from this work. I think, there are times when I feel I'm right on, and I can see with clarity, and other times where I'm thrown off the track and wish everything could be a little bit clearer. But I hope you can bear with me on this. Just when I'm in one of those muddling sections, just go into the kitchen and have some tea or coffee, and it will end soon, hopefully. We're into Gemini now, and it's the 3rd sign of the zodiac, transmitting the second ray, but because it is the 3rd sign, having much to do with the 3rd ray, also having much to do with the third ray. Okay. I think, well, I'm going to go immediately, and there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to write 3rd ray. TDR. Well, sometimes it's simpler than I think. Having much to do with the 3rd ray, even though being a major sign of transmission of the 2nd ray. Yes, the head of the cosmic Christ, it is called. And my friend Nicholas feels that that relates it to Orion, who seems to have shoulders but no head. And that Orion, of course, as we've been debating, has the 2nd ray, and should be the heart center. But remember, those great constellations have more than one ray, as we have seen with Draco, which transmits cosmic Buddhi, thus telling of its 2nd ray and its prototypical position as the utmost dragon of wisdom in our system. And yet, because it's related to Kundalini, will have to relate to the 7th ray, and who knows, maybe even the 1st ray, because sometimes we place 1st ray planets at the base of the spine. Um, Castor and Pollux, the bright Gemini, were born from Leda's egg. Jupiter, well, he got around. He ravished Leda, and the result was the appearance of Castor and Pollux. Castor, apparently in astrology, being the more benign influence, and Pollux more harsh. And yet Pollux, a supergiant star, is the one related to the higher of the pairs of opposites, and Castor, apparently from astronomy, consisting of 3 double stars. So we have the 6 and the 1, and this fits with the structure of the planes. With, for instance, and it also fits with the central factor surrounded by 6 similar factors. The central circle surrounded by 6, or the highest of the planes with 6 others, the logoic plane and the 6 others. But we usually consider Castor a unified influence and more connected with the lower of the pairs of opposites. Castor then, as we remember, Castor is the brother whose light is waning. Now, whether this has been proved astronomically or not, I don't know. But the symbolism is there for each of us, because we do have a lower of the pairs of opposites, and that lower one has to diminish. As John the Baptist said of the Christ, he must increase and I must decrease, says the Tibetan, and we learned that John the Baptist was a Gemini after all. Probably had a lot of Pisces going as well, something to connect him with the water and purification. The legend of Castor and Pollux is concerned with the mortal half of man, the personality, and the immortal part, the ego. Notice it's just written in lower case, or spiritual individual. The personality has nothing in itself to survive, and the other half, which becomes immortal in its individuality by reason of its 5th principle, which is the true Manas, and infused with love, as we see by reading about the Ray Lords, how loving indeed are the stanzas that relate to the 5th Ray Lord. So the personality has nothing in itself to survive, and the other half, which becomes immortal in its individuality by reason of its 5th principle being called to life by the informing gods, thus connecting the monad with this earth. And the informing gods, of course, the informing gods, well, both of them, she capitalizes both, forming gods are the solar angels, and the latent 5th principle rising in animal man is called to life by them. At the same time, a new type of mentality is anchored within a new structure called the causal body, or egoic lotus. Not earth globe, no. Egoic lotus. This is Pollux, while Castor represents the personal mortal man, an animal of not even a superior kind when unlinked from the divine individuality. So we dare not forget God, or the inner representative of God, the solar angel, the higher power, the guide, the supervisor. Otherwise, we fall into mediocre animality. So this description by HPB goes well along with what we know and understand of the solar angels and how, well, it's simply this, the solar angels provided a, well, I don't want to call it premature, but I will, a premature link of the lower man with the monad. It probably was very ripe to happen, but because, and especially because of the retardation on the moon chain, which held our planetary logos back and probably held our solar logos back as well, as he should probably be more advanced with respect to Sirius than he is. So premature in one way, but very due in another way. This link could not have happened at that time without the intervention of the solar angels. And I earlier talked about wondering whether our solar logos had experienced such a link from a still superior type of solar angel, of which all of our solar angels are a part. Castor, the lower man, owes his immortality to Pollux. It's interesting in astrology, you know, the reputation of the certain fixed stars. It's rather full of doom and gloom and dire human happenings. I mean, if you really want to get depressed, read the interpretations of the fixed stars. Mostly, except for a few really lustrous ones that always seem to give good fortune. Castor is very combative. Castor is mild. Pollux is combative, causes trouble, you know, is the star of boxing, something like that. I'll just put that as an idea. And in Rome, as you know, boxing wasn't a very pleasant thing. They wore metal on their fists, so it could be a lethal thing. But think of it. Think of the conflict caused in our lives when the soul really asserts itself. The soul becomes a warrior, and the personality is compelled to struggle, or at first, like the hare, to run away. So, the reputation of Pollux may be somewhat true as the troublemaker. Someone has written that it causes its creativity with pain. And Castor is a more easily flowing type of creativity. This is someone's idea. You know, there's so many ideas in astrology. An idea is simply a formulation, then it has to be tested by experience. So anyway, if some stars seem to cause trouble, like Algol, you know, piled up corpses, it is called. I think Joseph Stalin had that on his Pluto. Good Lord. It can be used for good purposes. This Algol, you know, is the severed head of the Gorgon, Medusa. But that's okay. We do have to sever that head, don't we? And there are some tasks presented to us which are not all milk and honey and mild. So, therefore, before we judge as to the ultimate value of some of these astrological factors, we have to think in larger terms. Pollux sacrifices himself to Castor, and, you know, what one could say, the solar angel sacrifices itself to its man under supervision. And it's not even a personality, it's something more. I'm going to actually use that as an abbreviation, and it's going to be an MUS. And, oh, no, that won't SUV, MUSV. That would be better. Otherwise, I'll dispense with my mental units, and I don't want to do that. Well, there wasn't too much to say there from the secret doctrine. There's been a tremendous collection of information by Master Decay under Gemini, which sign, I think, as the messenger, or as a strong messenger of the hierarchy, he represents. We're all caught in this Gemini drama, and as humanity, being a very dual kingdom, we have a higher and a lower self, however we wish to name those poles in our nature. And the fluid interplay between them is desirable. And the infusion of the heavenly light into the lower mind is desirable. Mercury, as the agent, can facilitate this. We are largely unenlightened beings who are struggling to rid ourselves of our vices in Scorpio so that we may be infused by the higher perspective of the elder brother. The elder brother is the soul on its own plane. We are, in a way, the elder brother. We are the angel of the presence, in a way. This angel, infused by the great knowledge of the solar angel, can see forward, see backward, knows the divine plan to the extent allowable in its position. Really, every solar angel, if you stop to think about it, having been already a graduate human being, and having been to Sirius for training, apparently, as a solar angel, is more advanced than a master. I've said that, people want to channel others, they might as well channel themselves, because within us is a very high deity who is, as far as we are concerned, quite omniscient. So, the more you learn about this, the more you know, perhaps the glamorous ideas are adjusted and glamorous actions cease. And by glamorous actions, I basically mean actions that lead nowhere, because they're based on misapprehension of the truth and of emotional attachment to those misapprehensions. That's the problem. We begin to like them too much and begin to try to carry them out on the physical plane as well, so then we have disastrous and retarding results. Why did the solar angels sacrifice themselves? I think it is part of their developmental process, and the bulk of humanity, our humanity. What is the bulk? 80% maybe? That's a guess. Will return as solar angels after training on the fourth path, or training on Sirius, led to by the fourth path, will return as solar angels in order to assist in parallel ways to the manner in which we have been assisted, those who are now in the animal state. So we'll find out, although will this be done in the next solar system, and if so, the conditions of individualization will be quite different and will involve not so much the mental plane but the monadic plane, we are told. Gemini, an important sign in the individualization process, along with Leo, which is now mentioned. The esotericism of the first creative hierarchy, which is the sixth in reality, is hidden in the zodiacal sign Leo. And these are okay. It's always a question of my red bracket, isn't it? Okay. These are the divine flames, ruled by Leo and the sun, veiling, I would presume, Uranus or Vulcan. Vulcan is already, as a hierarchical ruler, it is already veiled in the upper chart of the creative hierarchies. See, here's the one we're talking about, and we're not. It's the sun, but among the manifested creative hierarchies, the sun veils, I think, Uranus. Here there's a Uranus connection as well, where the moon is found in relation to the lowest hierarchy. If we go backwards by one, maybe we'll see that in the Taurus creative hierarchy, we would expect to find the hierarchical ruler to be Vulcan. It doesn't give us that. Let's see. And in Aries, we would expect it to be Uranus, because Uranus is the hierarchical ruler. 1, 2. We'll go back here again. Yeah. And here we're told the planet that is involved as the hierarchical ruler. Notice every one of these is the hierarchical ruler. The moon, hierarchical ruler of Aquarius, of course. Mars of Sagittarius, Venus of Capricorn, Mercury of Scorpio, Saturn of Libra, Jupiter of Virgo, and the sun veiling what? Veiling Uranus as the real hierarchical ruler for Leo. But when we go here, when it says name and sign, he just doesn't get into the hierarchical rulers. In Cancer would be Neptune. Gemini, it would be the Earth. Interestingly enough, Taurus, Vulcan, Aries would be, excuse me, I see it in front of my mind here, Uranus again, and Pisces would be Pluto, the very highest. So, this is the divine flames. I've talked about these already. They must be a type of life which helps to link the human being to the sun. To link the human being to the sun. There's much of Leo that has the second ray, and of the sun which represents the second ray, and the initiation of the logoic plane is the seventh, linked or taken upon the second ray. So these, let's take a look at here a little more. These are the divine flames, divine lives, the supreme energy, at least as far as the cosmic physical plane is concerned. Comments, fire and air. It's called the Sea of Fire. And it is the sixth hierarchy. In that respect, it has to relate to the sixth ray and also to Neptune. I won't go back now and discuss all that I did earlier on the first creative hierarchy. That will be in the earlier part of the book, or these commentaries relative to page 35. But it is definitely a solarly related hierarchy, whereas the next one down, the monadic hierarchy, tells us about the peak of the planet. The three persons of the logoic trinity, the three persons of the logoic trinity are found focused on this level. More so than the planetary logoi, who are focused etherically on the lesser level. So with this the divine flames, I think certain chakras of our solar logos are found. Some kind of head chakra or head chakras are found on this level, and this will relate to Shambhala. More than that, I don't want to say right now. Well, he didn't give us too much. This was just references from the Secret Doctrine. I suppose he figured he's given us so much already in the book that it's only worth including the references from the Secret Doctrine. And probably there were no cosmic fire references. Pisces, the 12th sign. In Judaism and Christianity, the Messiah is always connected with water and with baptism. Let's call it the first form of purification. And when you think of Neptune, Neptune is watery, but also the eventual and maybe present repository of the solar flames. So Neptune is a planet of purification, and the Messiah, at least as Christianity has interpreted him, is Neptune. Neptune is the savior. Neptune is the preliminary initiator. A new type of purification was taught by the Christ. And this is purification by fire. But let's all realize it is necessary to be purified by the flowing of the water before purification by fire. And why would that be? Well, you know, the water washes away so much of the obvious uncleanness or dirt, and one doesn't want that, as it were, hardened into place by the premature approach of the fire. Therefore, it seems that on this planet man must grieve, must suffer loss, must become detached from his attachments and suffer accordingly, and the waters will wash away, at least will undertake to see accomplished the first stage of purification, and then the fire can really be applied, the second baptism, and which is now probably more characteristic of the second initiation. Pisces, so the Messiah is connected with water and with baptism in the second racial initiation. One wonders about the Atlantean floods, the racial initiatory significance of the Atlantean floods. Also, Neptune is the initiator. That is, Christ is the initiator at the second initiation, and we have to have the a reasonable purification of the astral body, and it has to. It's you know, the let's say the elevation of desire at the second initiation, and it is rendered more subtle and less gross in the Martian way of thinking. Also, the first planetary initiation. Well, indeed, let's just say that Christ, Neptune, meets us at the first initiation. Now, planetary initiation, maybe we say that these planetary initiations are being distinguished from solar initiations. Planetary initiations here are distinct from solar initiations. The solar initiations begin at the third degree, we've been told. Mastership in the solar sense is consummated at the seventh initiation. The first Syrian initiation is the fifth. Mastership then, if the analogy holds good, would be consummated at the 9th initiation, which may not be taken in relation to our planetary sphere at all. Some permeation of the astral plane may be possible after the 7th degree, and I would suspect at the 8th degree, and then a refusal to have anything more to do with the cosmic physical plane at the 9th degree. So the Christ is Neptune, and Neptune is also the cosmic astral plane, and the Christ has received a cosmic touch, like the Buddha, or at least he is a representative of the love of the cosmic astral plane. And does this mean that he can focus his attention within that plane and, so to speak, be there? This would have to be concluded by inference. Perhaps it's so. He's becoming 7th degree initiate and is having intercourse with the cosmic astral plane. The Tibetan says of himself, I can't go there. I know not. But the Christ is a higher initiate, and maybe he can. But by the time the 9th degree is reached, the focus will pretty much be on the cosmic astral plane, because there will be no more engagement with the cosmic physical plane. This is all far ahead of us, but it helps to know, at least in dim outlines, what lies ahead. Pisces shines as a symbol of the past, present, and future spiritual saviors. You know, one who so much gives of himself that others are saved from the conditions imposed by the previous solar system. In other words, the Black Lodge members have become captive to a great material deva. We're told the saved one is no longer, or cannot become captive to the great material deva. And they don't want to release themselves from that particular type of force, because within that force they achieved their highest status so far as initiates of a previous solar system. So obviously the Ahamkara principle is preventing them from moving on and becoming more than they have been. They worship what they have been more than what they could be, or at least conceive of what they could be in terms of what they have been, and that is not as the higher intelligences conceive the possibilities of man. Kepler states a positive fact that at the moment of the incarnation of Christ, all the planets were in conjunction in the sign Pisces, the constellation of the Messiah. Well, this has to be checked. If we go back to, let's say 43 or 44 BC, is this anywhere near the truth? Of course, Kepler was a brilliant man, but he didn't have what we have in terms of computer technology, did he? So, you know, if I make a chart here just for fun, and well, August 8th, 44 BC, would it go back that far? Local mean time, daylight saving time was not in effect. We don't see anything like that, do we? If we go forward to by the year to 0 BC, now I'm not really sure whether this takes us, whether this program can handle that kind of thing, but maybe. Animate the chart and go forward year by year. It will. Let's see if it gives us. Okay. Oh, that's a month. We don't want the month. Let's go back. And let's see if we can change years. 43, 44. So we are now going back to the supposed time of the Christ. Even, let's say, 4 BC. Did we find that? No, we didn't. And, of course, there were other planets as well. Quite a few. Well, Uranus, at least, was in Pisces. Go back more to 0 BC. And we don't find any confirmation of this at all. So, given what he was working with, and as a matter of fact, let's look at this is 1 BC, and this is not much has changed, and really nothing is in Pisces. But let's go to this. We'll go to December 25th, Christmas Day. But of course, that doesn't. Christmas Day is conventional. It's conventional. All right. Number 1, we don't have 0 BC. We just have 1 BC or 1 AD or 1 BC. And again, we only find Uranus in Pisces. Well, that may have been enough. We probably could go back. I think I once took this back and looked for that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Pisces. There's Pisces, there's Saturn. All right, now how long will it take for Jupiter? It won't. This is 37, and Jupiter will reach Pisces, of course. And we're already back in 50 BC. Let's follow Jupiter here. Now it's in Pisces, but Saturn is not. So how will we find that conjunction? Well, first of all, we have to make sure we can trust our technology here, and that the solar fire program will actually do this. I think we'll have to. I think it does, but I think we have to, check with the creators first, just to make sure that we do not malign Kepler. But of course, all the planets conjunct in Pisces is a symbolically magnificent idea, but did it actually happen? We really do need that Saturn-Jupiter conjunction for the star. And I think, of course, one way to do this is to see how far back it really goes. In other words, what we can do is set our present time like this, and then say this is, we'll animate the chart, and then we'll just go backwards by years. And it will require a lot of patience. One day maybe the mind will be so fast that it will be able to instantaneously read the meanings of all these things that are passing. We've just made it back to the year 1900. Well, you can see how far back we'd have to go. I'm not going to, I may let this thing run. We're back in the 19th century now, and obviously there's no problem there. But how far back would it go without a glitch? And if it does go back to 0 BC and earlier, then maybe the program is designed for that. This is the kind of thing that astrological researchers will do, especially if they have a lot of third and fifth ray. I'm not so inclined to do it. Let's see. Yes, it's still going back. We're in the 16th century now, Just think of the tools we have at our disposal at this time. Just incredible. Even when I was beginning astrology, back 50 years ago, some 50 years ago, I think, or I was hearing of it about that time, maybe 48 years ago, something of that nature. Well, the Magna Carta is being signed now. I guess I can come back to this in a minute. I'd like to get rid of, though, some of the other ones, but in a way I don't. Okay. Do I dare? All right. There we go. All right, now the only one. We're going back into medieval times now. Wouldn't you like to have one of these toys? Maybe you do. The computing power is incredible, and it's just the beginning of what will be available to us as the research unfolds. But maybe we can do one more of these before. So we're trying to check up on Kepler, right? On the porticos and buildings sacred to votive offerings to the dead in the Buddhist religion, the ornaments of a cross formed of two fishes are ornaments of a cross formed by two fishes. And is Pisces a sign of death? Most certainly. A sign of death, dissolution, pralaya, Neptune, and Pluto as planets of death. And some have said even Jupiter, which has such a magnetism from the inner worlds, with such magnetism that it draws the incarnated life out of form. Maybe then that would be also true. Well, we're in the Dark Ages now. Pretty soon we'll come upon the Council of Nicaea, which did a lot of damage in terms of Christians' understanding of the esoteric implications of their religion. But, you know, man makes God in his own image, the reverse of what is said. And according to the intelligence of man, so will be their gods. So there was no great intelligence at that time. But now we're back in classical times where learning was respected. We can actually, you know, there are ways using the research program of Solar Fire where I could simply look for a conjunction and it would appear, the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. But now we're getting close by this rather crude method. So as we get closer to 0 BC or 1 BC, and that will happen, rather reminds you of how maybe God sees the years go by. 1,000 ages in his sight are like an evening gone. And there we are. 3 BC. Now let's take a look at Jupiter and Saturn and see as we go back through the years whether any one of them comes into the sign Pisces. Uranus is moving through Pisces now. There's Saturn in Pisces. But unfortunately, all right. Now we've got it. This is what we wanted. So maybe if the coming of the Messiah really occurred, there is a horoscope for the Master Jesus. Well, there are many, but for the Initiate Jesus, and Holger Staunsberg from Denmark has done, I think, a very good one with Virgo rising and the Sun in Capricorn. Now let's see if we can go back. Here we do have the conjunction. Here we don't. here we do. And this is August. So let's see if we go back some months. August, go forward. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, there's December. And now we can go forward by some days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, you know, is it in Capricorn? Let's say it is in Capricorn. Let's say conventionally that it's on December 25th, but that is strictly conventional. We certainly do have Jupiter and Saturn in Pisces. They are conjuncted. And Virgo is rising with Pluto on the ascendant or so. We'd have to go, well, since this is set up for Finland, it's pretty much the longitude of the Holy Land. We're pretty much on the same local mean time. We don't have to, now let's just see if we go a year back or a year forward, what will happen. A year back, we don't have that conjunction. A year forward, we don't have that conjunction. So it's looking a lot like 7 BC. Here we have Virgo rising, the Sun in Capricorn. We also have the Moon in Capricorn for the moment, but if we went forward by a couple of days, this is December 25th, but we go forward by a couple of days, just for fun. 1, 2, 3. 1. That's enough. On December 27th, we have the Moon, Jupiter, and Saturn all in Pisces, and Virgo rising with Pluto, the sign of death, on the ascendant. Well, this is probably not, maybe it's pretty close to Holger's chart, but it gives you an idea. So what have we learned? We've learned be patient, right? Okay. We have learned that around the December solstice in the year 7 BC, there is a conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in Pisces, and also the Moon. Sun is Capricorn, and in the evening, Virgo is rising with Pluto on the ascendant. And we want to keep Pluto for the crucifixion. Now, this can be fine-tuned, and I'm sure that if this is a kind of chart that Holger has, he has fine-tuned it. I'm just looking for the general principle. We don't find this in 44 or 43 BC, which I have calculated to be, in a way, the beginning of the lesser age of Pisces. So he was definitely born within the age of Pisces, and this is the birth of the Master Jesus, really. We're going to be looking here at the Scorpio implications, both Neptune, very strong in Scorpio, and, goodness, Uranus in Pisces also. Of course, Kepler would not have known about Uranus, would he? Mars in Aquarius, stirring up trouble. Sun in Capricorn, Mercury in Capricorn, adherence to the law. Venus in Scorpio, the helping to change the values of all. Release from the lower values. Of course, knowing what Jesus was, we can interpret it in this way. Kepler may be right in some respects. There were a lot of planets in Pisces, but not all by any means. And how did he put it? that at the moment of the incarnation of Christ, assuming that means birth, all the planets were in conjunction in the sign Pisces. So he calculated that the birth really took place in Pisces. But, of course, the birth was of the initiate, Jesus, Yeshua. And so Capricorn is correct. And a ruling planet, being Saturn, so Pisces is very, very strong. And the suffering and the relinquishment and so forth, there's an opposition there to Pluto. I think we may have the year here, if what Kepler says is true about Jupiter and Saturn. But my earlier checking, I think, had to do more with the Piscean age than with the birth of Jesus. So forgive me, Johannes. It doesn't look like it's working out exactly the way he said, but there are some pretty strong indications. Notice that trine between Jupiter and Venus for the love aspect in the water signs. Anyway, I didn't think that I'd be getting into the horoscope of Jesus when starting this particular program, but when you start reading secret doctrine references, your thoughts can go anywhere. Anyway, we'll have to disagree with Kepler about that multiple conjunction in Pisces, but as far as the Saturn and Jupiter go, we have good reason to think about the birth of Jesus occurring at that time. The sign of the Messiah's coming is the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in the sign Pisces, and this we have just researched. Taurus, references in the secret doctrine, the second sign of the zodiac. All the sun gods have been mystically connected with the constellation Taurus and were called the first. Well, also with the constellation Capricorn, because there, in that last decade of Capricorn, there is the power of the sun of initiation. And the sun, in a way, is reborn. Sun is reborn in Capricorn, beginning in the northern hemisphere. Its climb again towards the north. So it reaches its lowest point, and in the far north, here where I am at the moment, it disappears entirely. But right on the Arctic Circle, it in a way both disappears and reappears right at that time. Sometimes we might say that it has disappeared for 3 days. I'd have to check that out exactly, and then is more visible after the third day, which is, of course, the analogy to the crucifixion of Jesus, his entombment, and his resurrection. So we're dealing with a sun myth here. It's the resurrection of the resurrection of the sun and the resurrection of the crucified sun god. Now, why connect them with Taurus? Well, Taurus, the sign of great illumination, and the sun, the source of the greatest illumination for Earth and for humanity. So the connection is one of light. Taurus is regarded as the central group of the Milky Way. And I think as we look through Taurus, we will find the, visually at least, the Milky Way. Of course, the symbolism has to be there in terms of the great cow and the giving of the nourishing milk and so forth. Taurus, of course, holds the central group of our local cosmos system. The central group of our local cosmo. I like that. Cosmos system. CSMS. Will I remember it? That's the question. CSMS. And we'll call this Cosmo system. Now probably he's going to say something about that. The Pleiades, as the central group of the bull, and Alcyone, one of the 7 Pleiades, is supposed to be the star around which our universe, i.e. our solar system, we just have to become aware of how that term universe is used, around which our universe revolves. So the term universe means solar system in this type of use. Okay. Well, what if I try to actually stick to the time? It's just a minute over the end of Esoteric Astrology Adventure, number 159A, page 678, and beginning of Esoteric Astrology Adventure, number 159B, page 678.